My name is Margot R. Spaeth, 30 years old. I work as a systems analyst for a logistics company. Stable job, decent salary, nothing flashy but solid. And I've built my life around one simple idea: predictability. I rent a townhouse in a quiet neighborhood about 15 minutes outside the city, and it's in my name only. My credit, my lease, my furniture, my routines. The kind of setup that doesn't impress anyone on social media, but keeps you sane in real life. I'm not rich, but I've built something that makes sense, and for the most part, it stayed peaceful. Until Trent moved in. Trent is 27, marketing, always online, always curating. And when he smiles at his phone, it's never just for himself. It's for the invisible crowd that follows him everywhere. Everything is content. Brunch is content. Work stress is content. Even healing journeys are content, which sounds inspiring until you realize an argument can become content too. He moved into my townhouse about 8 months ago. No formal lease change, and he contributes to groceries and occasionally utilities. But I covered most of the expenses because splitting everything line by line felt like turning love into an invoice. For the most part, it was fine. Loud, dramatic sometimes, but manageable. Until last night. Because last night exposed what the noise was really for. The argument started over dishes. That's not a metaphor. Actual dishes. I got home around 6:30, dropped my bag, walked into the kitchen, and the sink was full while the dishwasher was empty again. And it wasn't just the mess, it was the repetition. The way the same issue kept coming back, like a test of whether I would eventually stop asking. I've asked calmly before. I've even shown him how to load the dishwasher so it fits more efficiently because he claims he never knows how to stack it. I wasn't trying to parent him. I was trying to keep the house from becoming a science experiment. So I said, "Hey, can you please run the dishwasher before it turns into a science experiment?" And I tried to keep my tone neutral, like this was a minor correction, not a referendum on our relationship. He snapped immediately. "Oh my God, do you ever come home and not complain?" And the way he said complain was sharp, like he'd been waiting for a moment to use that word. "I wasn't complaining," I said. "I was asking." That's when it escalated. He started listing every minor grievance he'd apparently been storing for months, like he'd been collecting them quietly just so he could dump them all at once when the timing felt dramatic enough. How I'm controlling, how I micromanage, how I make him feel like a roommate with chores. I stood there, watching him build a case against me, and I realized this wasn't about dishes at all. It was about power, about who gets to define what's happening. I said, "You are a roommate with chores." And the second the sentence left my mouth, I knew it wouldn't help. Because truth doesn't calm someone who wants a scene. He grabbed his phone mid-argument, which he does when he wants an audience. I assumed he was texting his friends or opening a group chat or posting a vague story to get sympathy because he's done that before in smaller ways. The hints, the captions, the soft accusations designed to make people fill in the blanks with my guilt. 15 minutes later, he stormed upstairs and slammed the bedroom door. I stayed downstairs and cleaned the dishes myself. Not angrily, just methodically, because in my mind, if I kept the routine intact, the moment would pass. Then my phone buzzed. 3 notifications. Trent had just posted on Instagram. Black and white selfie, good lighting, filtered, intentional. Caption, single and starting fresh. Posted 16 minutes after we argued about dishes. 16 minutes. We were still technically in the same house. At first, I thought it was a joke. Maybe sarcasm, one of those vague growth posts he likes to make when he's annoyed. But the selfie wasn't taken in the moment. It was from earlier that week. The kind of photo you take when you already know you'll need it later. The caption didn't read impulsive either. Single. Not feeling single. Not might as well be single. Single. Present tense. Declared. Within 5 minutes, it had 30 likes. Comments were already rolling in. "So proud of you. You deserve better. On to bigger things." People move fast when there's drama to consume, and suddenly my private argument was being eaten by strangers like a snack. I walked upstairs and knocked on the bedroom door. No answer. I knocked again. "What?" he yelled through the door. "Are we broken up?" I asked calmly. There was silence for 2 seconds, the kind that feels like a calculation. Then he said, "Maybe we are," like he was daring me to flinch. "You act like you don't even like me," he added. And I stood there thinking about what he'd just done. Publicly announced being single in my house while still living in it, while my neighbor's porch lights were on, while my life was still arranged around him being here. "Are you serious?" I asked. "Maybe I'm done being treated like a child over dishes," he shot back. That wasn't an answer. It was a headline. I went back downstairs, opened Instagram again, watched the comments climb, watched mutual friends texting me screenshots. One message read, "Girl, what happened?" And that's when something clicked. This wasn't about feelings. This was about leverage. He was creating a version of reality where he was the wounded one and I was the villain, without ever having to say it directly. So I did something simple. I liked the post. Then I commented, "Perfect. No emojis, no paragraph, just a clean acknowledgement that if he wanted to declare something publicly, I would treat it like it was real." Then I went to the garage and grabbed the spare lock set I bought 6 months ago for unrelated reasons, and I started swapping the deadbolt. Not angrily, just efficiently. I wasn't arguing semantics, I was adjusting logistics. By the time I finished swapping the lock, it had been about 20 minutes since I commented. My phone was lighting up nonstop. His post had exploded. People tagging him, messaging me, mutual friends trying to piece together what happened like it was a live episode. Then the bedroom door flew open upstairs. "What the hell did you comment?" he yelled as he came down the stairs, phone in hand, eyes wide like he didn't expect consequences to exist offline. I was at the kitchen counter, putting the old lock into the box. "Exactly what I meant," I said calmly. "You're embarrassing me," he snapped. "You announced you were single," I replied. "It's accurate." "It was heat of the moment," he said fast. "It's a post." "Is it deleted?" I asked. He hesitated, and that hesitation told me everything. No, it was still up. The audience was still watching. The story was still running. "Then it stands," I said. He stared at me like I'd spoken another language. "You didn't actually change the locks." I held up the new key. "I did." His face shifted from anger to confusion, then to fear. Because fear shows up when someone realizes the tactic didn't work. "You're insane," he said. "No," I said. "I'm consistent." He walked to the front door and tried the handle. Locked. Rain had started outside around that moment. Light at first, then heavier. And he stood there staring at me, trying to gauge if I was bluffing, trying to find the crack where my guilt would open the door. I wasn't bluffing. "You can't just throw me out," he said. "You said you're single," I replied. "That changes logistics." "That was a figure of speech," he snapped. "Is it still up?" I asked again. He didn't answer. Instead, he said, "You're overreacting over dishes." As we started fighting, he looked small standing there, soaked in the consequences of his own performance. He stomped upstairs and came back down with a tote bag, laptop, makeup case, random clothes, essentials. And when he reached the door, he paused, like he expected me to soften. "This is going to make you look horrible," he said quietly. "You already handled optics," I replied. He stepped onto the porch. Rain was heavier now, soaking his hair, smudging the careful image he always kept polished. And he turned back once more. "Unlock it." "No," I said, and closed the door. The house went quiet, and for the first time that night, I could hear my own breathing. He didn't leave, not right away. I watched through the front window as he stood on the porch in the rain, staring at his phone, probably reading the comments, probably reading mine, probably realizing that applause doesn't equal shelter. Within 5 minutes, his post changed. The caption was edited. Single and starting fresh became something softer, some damage control reframing. But the original screenshot was already circulating. 2 different friends had sent it to me. Then my phone buzzed with a DM from someone I didn't recognize. "You might want to see this." I watched Trent reach the end of the driveway, stop under the streetlight, and start typing furiously, his screen glowing against the rain like a small, desperate stage. My phone buzzed again. Missed calls, then texts, then another unknown number calling. And I didn't answer because if I answered, I'd be back inside his game. I blocked him. Not out of anger, out of structure. If someone declares they're single publicly, the next step isn't negotiation, it's boundary enforcement. I blocked his number, blocked him on Instagram, blocked him everywhere he could reach me. Clean lines, clean silence. Then I opened the DM from the stranger. It was a screenshot from Trent's private group chat, time-stamped earlier that evening, before we even finished arguing. His message read, "Watch this, I'm about to shake her up," followed by a laughing emoji, 2 minutes before the single and starting fresh post. My stomach didn't drop, it solidified. This wasn't emotional, it was performative, calculated. He wasn't venting, he was testing leverage, and he expected me to react the way I always had, with pleading, with fixing, with apologizing for being the stable one. I looked back outside. He was pacing on the porch now, trying handles, borrowing phones, sending emails that wouldn't matter. And in that moment, I understood something that would change the rest of the story. This wasn't a breakup post. It was a control test. And I had just failed his test on purpose. He knocked on the door hard. The kind of knock that isn't about being heard, it's about being obeyed. "Open it," Trent said through the wood, voice tight and furious, like he expected the door to feel guilty and unlock itself. I didn't answer. I stood in the hallway for a moment with my phone in my hand, not shaking, not pacing, just still, because the moment I spoke, I knew he'd turn it into a scene again. He knocked again, louder. "You have to be kidding me." Then the handle rattled like the lock might surrender out of sympathy. It didn't. The rain got louder, a steady roar now, and I watched his silhouette through the glass panel beside the door, hair flattening against his head, shoulders hunching, phone glowing in his hand like he was texting an audience for backup. I didn't open the door fully, but I did crack it just slightly once, keeping my hand on the edge, not letting him push through. "Grab a ride," I said calmly. "We'll coordinate pickup of the rest of your things tomorrow during daylight." I didn't say it like a threat. I said it like a calendar entry. He stared at me like he couldn't process that I wasn't negotiating. "You're humiliating me," he snapped, rainwater running down his face, mascara starting to smudge because even his anger was curated. "You humiliated me first," I said, and closed the door again. He didn't leave.